I received a question from one of my students, and he said, "Teacher, how come I can understand you perfectly? I understand everything you're saying, but when I try to speak in English, I can't speak at the same level." Now, I've received this question so many times from students around the world, and maybe you've experienced the same problem, had the same difficulty and the same challenge. And to be very honest with you, I experienced the exact same thing when I was studying Korean. You know the feeling, right? When someone is speaking in the language that you're learning, you feel so confident because you understand what they're saying. Again, when my teachers would speak in Korean, or my friends would speak in Korean, or even when I would watch a television program in Korean, I was so proud of myself because I could understand. But then, when someone would approach me and ask me a question in Korean, it was like everything went blank in my mind. I couldn't think of the words that I had studied. I couldn't think of the words that I had understood when I watched those television programs. They just didn't seem to come to mind. And again, you may feel the exact same way. So how come you can understand English, but it's hard to speak in English? Well, today I'm going to tell you why, and I'm going to give you the solutions you need to finally speak just as good as you can understand. I'm Teacher Tiffany. Let's jump right in. All right, so there are 5 solutions to this problem, the problem of not being able to speak as good as you can hear. The first one is equal ratio. Second, learn and use one new word. Third, summarize your day. Fourth, take notes and read them. And finally, reading out loud and shadowing. So let's take a look at the first one, this one right here. Here's the fact. Your current situation, you are watching, listening to, and enjoying hours of English programs, but you are only using your eyes and your ears. Think about it. You have a cell phone, you have a computer, you have a television, and you're constantly watching programs in English. So your eyes are getting lots of practice, and your ears are also getting lots of practice, which is why you can understand so much in English. But again, that's not helping with your speaking. So here's what you need to do. Use an equal ratio. You need to speak for the exact amount of time that you listen to or watch an English program. That's right. The same amount of time you spend watching a lesson, just like this lesson, or watching a movie is the exact amount of time you need to practice speaking. Let's continue. You need to speak for the same amount in order to improve your speaking skills. This will help your speaking skills match your ability to understand English. It kind of makes sense, right? The reason why you can understand is because you've constantly been putting new information in English into your brain. Now we just need to do the same thing with bringing that information out, okay? So here's what you need to do. First, watch a 5-minute video, 10-minute video, or however long you want to watch a video for. I have it in parentheses because you can choose how long the video is. And what you're going to do is you're going to speak for 5 minutes, or however long the video is, you're going to speak for that amount of time about the video. Now, half of the time is going to be summarizing what you saw, and the other half is going to be giving your opinion. So for example, let's say you watch one of my YouTube video lessons. You can pick any video you'd like. And let's say the lesson is 15 minutes long. That means you need to also speak for 15 minutes. Now, in the beginning, it may seem a little bit challenging, but remember, half of that 15-minute period is going to be spent summarizing what you saw. You can talk about what I taught you. You can talk about my story time. You can summarize the lesson and take your time. It's okay. Now, the other half of that time needs to be giving your opinion. What did you think about my story? What did you think about the tips or the tools that I gave you from the lesson or in the lesson? Again, you have to practice speaking for as much time as the video was that you watched. It's going to be challenging, but you're going to see your ability to speak in English improve drastically. Okay? Now, what about the second method, the second solution? You see, here's the situation. You are learning lots of new words and expressions indirectly through videos and lessons, but you aren't using them. So again, you know a lot of words and expressions from watching my videos. I like to tell you all stories because in the stories, I usually use a lot of new expressions and idioms from natural conversations, words that I would use if I was speaking to one of my friends here in America. Now, when you hear the words that I use, you kind of pick up on the meaning like, maybe Teacher Tiffani means this. And you kind of guess what the meanings of those words and expressions are because you're following along with the story or the lesson that I'm teaching. Now, that's great. That's why you can understand so much. But what about speaking? So here's the solution. Here's what you need to do. You need to learn and use one new word. Notice I said learn and use because what's happening is you're learning a lot of words currently from this video and videos from other amazing English teachers on YouTube, but you're not using them. So here's what you need to do. Try to learn and use one new word, expression, or concept every single day. This is the key. Every single day. A lot of times as students or as English learners, what you may do is you may spend one day and say, I'm going to learn 35 words today. And you go hard, you study really diligently, but then it gets overwhelming. And you do it one day and maybe the second day, but then the third day, the fourth day, the fifth day, the sixth day, you stop. So what you need to do is have a plan that you can remain consistent with. Learn one new word or expression every single day. Now, simple words are okay. The key is that you must learn and use them every day. This will help you get in the habit of learning new words that you can use when you speak in English. Again, remember the goal is to improve your speaking skills. So even if you know a word already, if you're not using it, it's kind of like you don't know it. Again, you know it here. Teacher Tiffani just said that word. I know that word. But you need to learn how to use the word in conversation when you are speaking. So here's how you need to do this. First, write down at least, you can do more, at least one word, expression, or concept you learned. Next, figure out a way to apply it to what's going on in your day. And finally, use the word in a conversation or by talking to yourself. So again, let's say you learned the word gargantuan. I know it's a big word, but hey, stay with me. Now, gargantuan just means extremely large, really big. Now, I've used this word in a previous lesson several months ago. So some of you may have remembered that word when I said it, gargantuan. Oh, I remember Teacher Tiffani taught that word in a previous lesson. Amazing. Your understanding, your listening skills are amazing. Now, how can you start using gargantuan in your daily life, in your conversations with other English learners or native English speakers? Well, what you have to do, again, step 2 is figure out a way to apply it to what's going on in your day. So for me, for example, gargantuan. Well, I watched a video about animals, a nature video. And in the video, they had lots of whales. Now, whales are very large animals, right? So I can say, today I watched a video about a whale. The whale in the video was really big. It was a gargantuan whale. Makes sense. You see, I immediately connected what I did or what I saw today with this word that I learned, but I had to say it out loud. And that's, again, what's important. When you learn the word, when you figure out how to apply it to your day, and then use the word in real life, in a real conversation. And again, if you're by yourself, you can talk to yourself. That's okay. Your tongue just needs the practice. So use it by saying it out loud and make sure what you're saying is applicable or is related to what happened in your day. Okay? Make sense? Good. All right. Now, the second thing that is important. So here's the deal. You are just thinking about your day in your own language. This means your brain is mainly functioning in one language. And I get this question all the time from students. Teacher, how can I stop thinking in my mother tongue? This is really a difficult thing. Again, when I was studying Korean, I had the same trouble. I would always think in English, and then when I was speaking, try to translate really quickly into Korean. But Korean and English are very opposite. They're very different. They have different word orders. So actually this morning I was talking to my friend, hey Annie, on the phone, and I was helping her with translation of something, and she speaks English as well, Korean and English. And she wrote it in Korean, and then I had to translate it to English. I had to read it multiple times in Korean because the word order is so different in English. So one word may be in the middle in Korean, but in English, it should be at the front. So again, that's why it's so important for you to realize that, hey, you can't just only think in your own language. You have to figure out a way to think in English in order to improve your speaking ability. So here we go. Summarize your day. At the end of the day, even if you are alone, summarize the 3 to 5 main things you did that day. If you worked, if you went to school, if you talked to your family, if you cooked, think about the 3 to 5 main things you did during the day. Now, you need to start reviewing what you did each day and organize your thoughts in English. Remember that you need to speak out loud. So, for example, I told you that I spoke to my friend this morning, Annie, right? We spoke on the phone. Now, if I'm practicing Korean, I need to say, okay. 친구랑 같이 얘기했고, 결혼 생활에 대해서 얘기했어. So I just said, I spoke to my friend. We talked together and we spoke about marriage life. But again, I had to process what we did in Korean because that's the language I'm learning, right? So for you, think about what you did. You're going to think immediately in your own language, but that's okay. Then you have to force your brain to convert what you're thinking into English and process everything in English about your day. Again, the 3 to 5 main things you did. So here we go. Here's how you do it. Steps. Set aside 15 minutes at the end of your day. Again, not a long period of time. I want to help you reach your goals without having stress. So just start with 15 minutes. Whatever time of the day you want to set aside this 15 minutes is okay. Again, in the evening though, but set aside 15 minutes at the end of your day. Then think about the 3 to 5 main things you did. Finally, start describing or explaining them out loud in English. Remember, I said, 결혼 생활에 대해서 얘기했고, I said we talked about marriage life. Again, my friend is getting married, so we talked about marriage life, all right? So if my friend is getting married, we're going to talk about marriage life. I had to process that situation in Korean and then say it out loud. You'll notice that the more I say it, the faster it will come out, right? Because I've already processed it. You need to do the same thing about your day, all right? The 3 to 5 main things that happened to you during that day. It will help you improve your speaking ability. Now, let's look at another one. Here's the situation. You are taking tons of notes in your notebook. You probably have your notes out right now, just writing. If you are, I'm very proud of you as your teacher, right? Now, that's a good thing. So you're taking tons of notes in your notebook, on your phone, or on your computer. The problem is that they stay there. Now, I am guilty of this as well. When I was studying Korean, when I was in university, sometimes it was easy to write tons of notes. I would have tons of notes, books full of notes, whether it be Korean, new Korean words or expressions, or notes from class, from our teacher teaching us certain aspects of art or different things. But what happened after class? The notebook would be closed and put on my desk. The note would be closed or put in my book bag. And that's what may be happening to you as well. You're taking tons of notes, which is amazing, a great habit to have. But if those notes just stay, if they stay in your phone or your notebook and you never actually use them, your English speaking ability will never improve. So here's what you need to do. Take notes and read them. Read them out loud. You'll notice that there's this overarching theme of out loud, reading out loud, making sure you're speaking and not just thinking about things. So here we go. You need to start reviewing your English notes by reading them out loud. This needs to become a routine because it will help you remember important words and also use them in real life. So again, during this video, you've probably been taking notes, again, whether it be on your phone or in a notebook. Now, what you're going to do is go back over those notes, but read them out loud. Maybe you wrote, Teacher Tiffany said I need to take notes and read them. You wrote that. Now go back and read it. Teacher Tiffany said I need to take notes and read them out loud. You need to let your tongue have practice. This is how your speaking will improve. Now, how do you do this? Here we go. I'm going to give you some steps. First, write little notes throughout the week. I have a little notebook that I keep with me that when ideas pop in my head, or if I have a little sketch that I want to do, I take that little notebook out. It's very small, and I just draw in it really quickly, or I write some quick notes. That's what you need to do. Throughout the week, take notes. Maybe you watch a television program, or maybe you see a YouTube video like this lesson, and you learn something new. Jot or write down a quick note. It's okay. Write down the notes and collect these notes throughout a week, okay, over a 7-day period. Next, what you're going to do is pick a day to review those notes. You can say, hey, Sundays are my review notes day. Or days, or you can say, hey, I'm going to do it on Monday or Wednesday. You can pick the day. Just once a week, pick a day that you're going to review the notes. Then what you're going to do is you're going to read them out loud 3 times. It will get easier each time. Now, you may say, teacher, why 3 times? So let me explain. The first time you read your notes, you may feel a little bit awkward, like Teacher Tiffany said, write something and read it out loud. Right? The first time you're kind of like, okay. But then the second time you read it, Teacher Tiffany said, write something down and read it out loud. You're a little more comfortable. By the third time, your tongue is also going to be, hey, I'm ready. Let's do it. Your tongue is ready. You already know what it says because you've connected by looking at it and actually saying it. So now, Teacher Tiffany said, write something down and read it out loud. You're giving your tongue practice. And by reading it 3 times out loud, your speaking is definitely going to improve. Remember, the notes are your thoughts, things that you believed were important. So you wrote them down. So when you go back to read them, they're not going to be pieces of information that are boring or this is not interesting. No, you wrote the notes. So they're already interesting to you. And since you wrote them, your brain already has a little connector. It's just waiting for you to make the connection between what's here to what's coming out on your tongue. Make sense? All right, now let's look at another situation, okay? Here's the situation. You are just watching videos or reading English books or articles while relaxing and not doing anything else. Think about it. Now, again, it's very important for you to be relaxed when you're learning anything, especially English. But if you think about it really hard, a lot of times you just kind of watch a video. When it ends, you go to the next video. Oh, that was good. Then you go to the next video and you keep scrolling. So you're watching, which is good, but you're never putting into practice what you've learned. So instead of watching a video, stopping and practicing, you're just kind of going with the motions, watching more and more. So how can we fix this to help you improve your speaking ability? You need to read out loud and shadow. So reading out loud and shadowing is very important. You need to start reading the words out loud and or shadowing what you hear as you watch various videos. This will also help you improve your pronunciation skills. So think about it. You all notice that for my videos, I always include lots of graphics. You know, I love design. That was my profession before I became an English teacher. I love to make pretty things, right? So since I have the words on the screen that I'm saying, you can practice shadowing and reading what I have on the screen. So in essence, you could pause the video and repeat what I said. So again, you can go back and say, oh, Teacher Tiffany said you need to start reading the words out loud, ... and keep going, reading what's on the screen by simply hitting pause. So instead of just taking information in, you can pause and start to be more active and giving yourself the opportunity to improve your speaking skills. So what are the steps? Here we go. Select a video or an audio file. Again, you can select the YouTube video, you can select the podcast episode, Speak English with Tiffani podcast. I think you'll like it. Now, the next thing you're going to do is decide on a specific time interval. Now, this is very important. I put down 5 seconds, 10 seconds, and 15 seconds. It all depends on your level. So what's going to happen is, for example, I'm still talking to you right now, but let's say you chose 5 seconds. So you'll watch for 5 seconds. Okay, so we're studying this lesson and I want you to keep practicing. Pause. I said, okay, we're studying this lesson and I want you to keep practicing. When you hit that pause button, you'd repeat what I just said. Now, for those who are a little bit more advanced, maybe you choose the 10-second interval. That means you can remember what is said over a 10-second period and you can repeat it. Again, you can choose the interval, but whatever you watch, whatever you are listening to, you need to pick an interval and start and stop, start and stop. So again, the last part, stop the file based on the intervals and repeat what you hear. This is so important. This is how you practice or shadow and practice reading out loud as you're learning things from videos or from audio podcasts. Now, I hope this really helped you because I know how frustrating it can be to be able to understand English but not actually speak. I experienced the same thing when I was learning Korean, and I wish someone had given me a lesson like this. So put into practice what you learned today. I will talk to you next week. Have an amazing week. Remember, if you want to keep studying with me, join my academy, join our family by going to letsjumprightin.com. I'll see you next week, but as always, remember to speak English. You still there? You know what time it is. It's story time. Hey, I said it's story time. Like how I slowed it down right there, yeah? All right, guys. So today's story is actually about a time I was nervous to give a speech. Now, I'm sure all of you know something very, something about me. I'm not a shy person. I've never really been shy to speak up front or in public. Public speaking has never been a fear of mine. And I've been told many times that it's a blessing to not be scared to speak up front. So one time at my church, this is before I went to Korea. I went to Korea for a year and I came home to visit. And my pastor said, Tiff, we'd love for you to give us a sermon. Would you mind speaking? I said, okay, I don't mind. I'll definitely do that. So I had about maybe a month to a month and a half to prepare the sermon. So I'm a Christian and I love God so much. And I believe that whenever you get up front to speak for him, you need to make sure you're prepared. So I studied the Bible a lot and I made sure that the topic I was going to speak about, I knew it like the back of my hand. I knew it really well. So I prepared a lot and I was practicing the morning of. So it was the Sabbath morning, Saturday for those, Sabbath morning. And I was at home and I was practicing before going to church. And all of a sudden, my stomach just started turning in knots. I mean, it was hurting really bad. And I didn't know what was going on. I had prepared everything and there was nothing wrong. I hadn't eaten anything wrong the night before. I couldn't think of why my stomach was hurting, but it was getting worse and worse and worse to the point that I had to stop practicing and I had to run to the bathroom. And I was in the bathroom for a long time. I was still home, but I was in the bathroom for a long time. You guys can imagine. My stomach was killing me and I couldn't figure out what was causing me this problem. So finally I came out the bathroom, and when I came back to my room and I was sitting looking at my script that I was going to use for my sermon, I heard, I was like, wait a minute, I think I'm nervous. And I had never been nervous speaking up front before, but I was like, wait a minute, I don't think I'm nervous, but my body is showing me that, yes, what I'm about to speak about is not an easy topic, and I'm more nervous than I realize. Now, again, my stomach was still turning a little bit, but I was like, I have to preach. Like the pastor asked me, this topic is very important. I have to preach. So my family and I, we go to church and I'm sitting up front. They have the people singing up front and they have reading the scripture and they're going through the regular program. And then it's my turn to go up front to give the sermon. Now, praise God, the sermon went well. God is good. I wasn't nervous. As soon as I got on the stage, I wasn't nervous at all. And I delivered the sermon. People said they enjoyed it, and I also enjoyed giving it. After the sermon, I was standing at the door, and normally when church ends, people walk out and they kind of shake the hand of the person who spoke and give the person a hug. So since I was the speaker for that day, people were coming out and giving me a hug and saying, "Oh, Tiff, we appreciated the sermon," et cetera, et cetera. But some people came up to me and said, "Tiff, you don't know how much I needed that sermon." I had a friend text me, "Tiff, that sermon today really touched my heart." And I got that response from so many people. And I realized, man, if I had let my nervousness or my stomach hurting so bad hinder me from giving this message, what would have happened? The people that needed to hear the message that was given would not have heard the message. And that situation taught me that sometimes you're going to be in a situation where you feel nervous. You're not sure of the words you're going to say, and maybe you may feel a little bit uncomfortable. The thing is, you have to work through that nervousness and still speak, because you may not realize that someone else needs to hear what you have to say. Now, I know we talked today about speaking in English and why it's more difficult than understanding, but I believe in you. I believe the very fact that you're able to understand what I'm saying right now is proof that you are just as intelligent as another person, which means you can speak in English. So when you feel your stomach kind of turning in knots, or if you get a little nervous when you come up to a native English speaker and you have to speak in English, hopefully my story will help you out. Work through the nerves, press forward, and remember that the words you have to say are just as important as the words someone else has to say. Guys, I hope you enjoyed this story. If you have a story about being nervous, please share it in the comment section. Again, if you want to keep studying with me and also join our family, don't forget to go to letsjumprightin.com. Also, you can help by liking this video, sharing this video, and subscribing. I will see you all next week.